One,
Good evening.
would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Horry County Solid Waste Authority for the month of September. If we could, please, I'll ask Mr. John Long to give us our invocation and Mr. Campbell to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Father God, we thank you for bringing us here together tonight safely, and we pray for everyone's safe travel home in this wet weather. May the words of our mouths and the meditation of our heart be pleasing to you as we go about the business for the betterment of Horry County. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Let's face the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First order of business, we need an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion, second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm sorry, we do need to add two things to the agenda. The executive director is going to talk about the Sunoco contract, and Ms. Britton is going to give us an update on the bylaws. So we'll add those two things, and we'll just need a motion to approve that agenda, the amended agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we will approve the amended agenda. Next, the minutes of the August 18th regular meeting. You should have had a chance to read those.
So moved.
We have a motion, second. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll approve the minutes for the August 18th, 2014 meeting. Public input, we'd like to welcome Ms. Grace Gifford from the Chirping Bird Society, who's going to talk to us this evening. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Thank you
And
for being here.
I'd like to introduce, in turn, Valerie Moliterno, who's going to share some ideas that we have for moving forward.
Great, thank you.
My name is Valerie Moliterno. I want you to say that quickly. What are the chirping birds? Now, you have this all in front of you, so I'm just going to paraphrase this. I'm not going to, and you can read it at your own leisure. Chirping Birds is an organization where we chirp, cheep, and chitter to be free of plastic litter. Cheep, 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 cheep. Anyway, do you all remember that slogan, better living through chemistry?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember? I know I'm older than a lot of you, so it should be changed to careful living with chemistry. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about plastic bags. With the discovery of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch by marine researcher Charles Moore, subsequent discoveries were made. Microbeads, plastic microbeads, the tsunami that brought tons of trash to our land, our own Hurricane Hugo celebrating its 25th year. All this was a buildup of trash, and I don't have to tell you people how much trash there was. Captain Moore expressed concern that plastic pollution in the ocean was killing more animals than climate change. Hundreds of species mistake plastics for their natural food. Besides sickening wildlife, it adds to the increasing amount of synthetic chemicals that are found in our body that were unknown before 1950. I'm sure that has to do with the development of pharmaceuticals. In an article entitled In Nature, Classify Plastic Waste as Hazardous, we need now to update policies to reflect the dangers of plastic to human life and our biosphere. Plastic waste is an immediate threat to human health, fishing, our food chain, and our planet. The Chirping Birds approach has had multiple components. We work with families and associates to adopt practices which eliminate plastic waste, or recognize the initial starts to eliminating plastic waste. With membership in the Common Agenda, we support legislative approaches to managing waste. Lastly, we celebrate businesses that adopt low-waste strategies and provide education through film screenings, information tables, and talks. And we were just at the Home Improvement Center, Home Improvement Convention last week. Positive changes have already begun. As you know, California now has a ban on plastic bags. Businesses have adopted low-waste practices and deserve recognition and patronage. Grace, these are the businesses that we have so far have recognized for doing their job. Some of them give out, instead of giving out styrofoam containers, they give out cardboard containers. Instead of using the little creamers, they use a real creamer, and they pass it around the table. Capriccios, Drunken Jacks, South Carolina Litter Association bylaws. We actually have some pictures that we will show you later. We hope that Horry County Solid Waste Authority will include strategies in their five-year plan, to significantly reduce our plastic waste stream. We work with trash pickup crews, beach sweeps, but trash just seems to just get beyond us. We are constantly trying to pick up plastic bags. We have the River Keeper, other organizations, Keep America Beautiful. They all are trying to clean up, and they do it regularly, and there's still more. It's a never-ending job. We urge you to continue your many successful cutting-edge programs, including the mobile recycle trailer for special events, the Talk and Trash program, tours of the landfill. We urge you to champion legislation to ban single-use plastic bags, which has been successful in other states and nations. We urge you to resume the pursuit of practices for your meals right here in the boardroom, eliminating plastic utensils. And lastly, we urge you to move forward with composting. Thank you for your time, and we hope that the five-year plan will produce some significant results and that we will be a plastic bag-free community. You want to show some pictures? That's the chirping birds, and Moe's was the first, I don't know if it was the first one, but it is right here on 501, isn't it? 501? And they've got our first, a certificate from us for reducing packaging waste. Next slide. The bag ban would prevent plastic waste from washing into our rivers. Pictures of the
Thank you very much for your hard work and efforts, and we also appreciate you recognizing our programs as well. Are there any questions from board members?
I don't have any.
See this? I don't know if you know what this is. This is a bag made out of plastic bags. Knitting.
Oh, neat.
Ms. Creech?
Isn't that something?
I just would like to thank you. I think y'all are doing a terrific job. I think we need to, you're doing a lot of encouraging people to reduce, which I think is great. Recycling is marvelous, reusing it, but reducing that kind of trash and using that, I just think you're a great job, doing a great job. And I sure hope we can work on some of the things with you that you're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you very much for y'all being here, and we appreciate your efforts again. Thank you. Okay, we'll move right into departmental reports, recycling, corporate affairs. Ms. Murphy?
Good evening.
Hello.
My report begins on page 16. Going to begin with an update on the annual, the DHEC annual report. Cecil, would you move my slide, please? As you know, each year, we are required under the Solid Waste Policy and Management Act to report our recycling efforts in Horry County. The Solid Waste Authority reports the recycling efforts that happen not only at the Solid Waste Authority, but with any business that reports back to us in Horry County. This year, we began this process on July 25th and contacted 138 businesses, which is one more business than that was contacted last year. Of the 138 that we contacted, we received completed surveys back from 65. We had 15 complete their information online through DHEC's website. 6 are no longer recycling material within Horry County, or material that was generated in Horry County. And we have yet to date here back from 52 of the 138. We were required to complete our reporting process on September 15th. However, businesses do have until November to complete their reporting with DHEC. They will just have to report directly to DHEC as opposed to reporting to us. We'll know the results of the reporting for fiscal year 2014 in the spring of next year. So we'll just keep you abreast and informed of what's going on with that. The next update I want to give you is on the our annual United Way campaign. I reported last month that our goal that was set was $5,400, which was our same goal as last year. We completed our campaign at the end of August. We did receive pledges in the amount of $4,871. I did get another pledge card in after y'all board packet information went out, so that's the change there. However, we're still off from the goal that we set, and we will and are considering doing some other fundraisers in-house here at the Solid Waste Authority, things like maybe a hot dog lunch or things of that nature to try just to raise a little bit more funding to benefit the United Way. It's something that we truly believe in. Also wanted to publicly thank our team SWA who participated in our annual Day of Caring with the United Way. Victoria Johnson, Cecil Terry, and myself sat down with 3 other ladies and wrote out 500 thank you cards for people who participated in the Day of Caring. We got to see Mr. Lance Thompson there that day. I think it was a good day, good weather.
I had the pleasure of sitting with the SWA team, so
Yes.
thank y'all for all your hard work.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity. The last update I want to offer to you would be on some various events. I handed out several pieces of literature before the board meeting. The first memo was about an upcoming Institute of Government courses that are going to be held in Columbia. I gave you there are 4 classes that they're offering on October the 16th. And if anyone of you are interested in attending, if you complete the form and just return it back to me, we'll get you registered for those courses. You also received a handout for the community open house. This is something that we do quarterly here. Our next open house is scheduled for October the 30th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So you have a little mini flyer for you to kind of post on your refrigerator so you don't forget to come out. I mentioned that November 7th would be the date of our annual employee dinner. I did not have at the last meeting the location of the dinner. However, we've received all of our proposals in. And based on those proposals, our dinner will be held at Cherry Hill Missionary Baptist Church, the same location as last year. So we hope you all have that marked on your calendar, 7 p.m. on November 7th, Friday night. On the very next day, November 8th, Horry County will be hosting a Horry County Community Cleanup Day. And this is one that will touch every district in the county. Each district will have a community cleanup event going on that day that will end at the Speedway with a lunch for those who volunteer to clean up. We will be participating in this event through a booth at the Speedway, as well as through providing recycling and some garbage containers for the event. So you have that handout in case any of you want to sign up to volunteer. All the information's also on that small flyer. The last update I want to, or the last event I want to mention is actually our December board meeting. We usually move that board meeting date because of the holidays. The date as set tearing up equipment. The date as set back in January is Thursday, December the 11th. We usually hold that meeting earlier in the day. The past few years, we held the meeting at 3 p.m. If anybody wants to agree to do that again this year, sounds great to me.
That works good for me. That's the night of the March of Dimes Signature Chef's Auction, so that would work good if anybody's planning on going to that event. Anybody have a problem with 3 o'clock on December the 11th?
Very good.
Let's go ahead and make that change then. 3 o'clock on the 11th for the December board meeting.
And that's all I would have, unless you have some questions.
Any questions for Ms. Murphy? Okay, thank you very much. Operations and Planning, Mr. Hilling.
Good evening to everybody.
Good evening.
Brief updates on some of our projects going on. First thing, Highway 90 appearance. It's been a big push for litter. It's been in newspapers, TV, and all that. For the first quarter, we were just under 1,000 pounds out on Highway 90, our 8-mile stretch, picking that up. We also mowed our 8-mile stretch each month out there, so we continue to stay after it. We also did some special pickups. There were some big piles that were thrown out there, and if we see them, we'll send someone out when we're either picking up or taking back the inmates. We'll get out there and try and get them picked up. So we're pretty much on target. Same thing we've been getting every year out there. We'll kind of end up same place, but just under 1,000 pounds. Next thing was our driver of the month. For the month of August, it was Mike Yale from Lee Disposal Services. Committee picked Mike. He's good to work with, drives the tractor trailer for Lee, bringing in some heavy C&D loads for that company out there each month. Last on this thing is the closure of the 30 acres on the back side. Rain has really kind of hampered us. Last week we had 4 inches of rain on the landfill. Very little was able to get done, except some real manual labor with shovels out there, some soils that had kind of drained down from the rain out there. Pretty much, as we said last month, all the liner and the netting is done on phase one, and what they've done, they've broken it up into 3 phases. The first phase was 12 acres. The next 2 is 9 acres each. And so the first phase, all the liner and the netting is down, and they've covered approximately 75% with protective soil. When everything's said and done, we will have 42 inches of soil on top of that liner. We've got anywhere from about 18 to 24. Currently, we've still got about 25% to cover. When we get weather like this, it's really hard for those off-road trucks to get in and out with the soil up there. So basically last week, we didn't get a whole lot done. King is doing everything they can to make it travelable out there and get it done, but just Mother Nature, we can't do a whole lot with her.
Other than the rain, are there other challenges or problems that have been run into, or?
Not really.
Okay.
Rain is the main one.
That's it?
King is, and they try to prepare and do everything they can.
Sure.
And, they're doing a good job out there, but it's kind of like with the landfill out here. When we get rain like that, as much as we've had, there's things that we have planned, and sometimes we have to go to Plan B and do other things out here. So, but what they have was so much soil to bring in, it does slow them down.
Sure.
They were moving really good yesterday, and then today, of course, last night rain started again. Did a little bit today, not a whole lot out there, but and we'll just have to play it by ear. But this week was scheduled on phase 2. The second 9 acres was to go ahead and start on the subgrade work, get it prepared, bring any kind of backfill we needed to do to get it nice and level, and then next week the liner folks were coming back in to do the next 9 acres of liner out there. But that may end up being pushed back another week, depending on how much rain we get over the next day or two. So it really socked in today and held them up. Couple pictures on there, overhead pictures. You can see the liner was being put down, the first 12 acres, and then these pictures were done before they've actually completed 75% of the protective soil out there. But I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like from overhead with the liner and the netting down there, and then covering with the soil. You can see where they built in their roads to haul the soil in for the protective cover. So it's a challenge for them in the rain, but they're up to it. They've been great communicating with us, letting us know what's going on every day out there. They're up, we're having our progress meetings every 2 weeks, and they're in the office probably 2 or 3 times a week in my office, keeping me up to date. Plus, we're able to talk with them every day out there. So it's progressing. It's just slowed down. So I think we're probably into March now, where it was originally set up for like February 15th to be done, and the weather days has pushed it to March. So still encourage you to come out. Love to take you out there and kind of see all the little things that has to be done to get it up to, to grade where we need to be. But please come out. We'll take you out there and be glad to show it to you.
Just out of curiosity, how are you getting your aerial photos? It's copter views, or you got a drone, or how are you getting those?
No, we have a company that flies it each month for us, Truesdale Photography, and we've been doing that for years. And really ask them, while this project's going on, and if we have any project going, give us a few extra pictures out
Sure.
here, just so we get them updated each month, and I'll try to put some in there. Hopefully, you'll really see a big improvement, or not such an improvement, but a lot more cover, when he flies the end of this month.
Is that a local group?
No, he's out of, it's right near Sumter, Manning,
Manning,
is
okay.
where he's out of.
Any questions on operations and planning?
Are we still on budget, or do you think that?
Yes, ma'am. Still on budget currently.
Yeah. Yes, sir, Mr. Gray. Speak into your mic, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Some of this may harken back to an earlier date, but the $7 million project came in roughly $1 million under, right?
I believe that's correct, yes, sir.
And yet we approved, as a board, we approved the executive director executing a contract up to the original budget amount. Is that correct? I mean, that's the way I read these notes here.
I would have to go back and look at that, to be sure. The budget amount was, $7,750,000. From what we have in here, let's see, yep, our recommendation then was to approve it not to exceed the $7,750,000 for construction and engineering. Right. That include the engineering costs.
Yeah, I recognize that perhaps I should have asked this question at that time, but why would we approve an amount, $1 million more than the bid itself?
You could have some overruns out there. You know, it possibly could be a change order where we need something extra. Once you get into it, that's always a possibility.
Have we had change orders to date?
Not today.
Yeah.
What? I guess I just need to pay closer attention. We all need to pay closer attention. Bid came in for, say, $6 million, and the budget was $7 million, and we said, well, okay, you can write a contract up to the $7 million number, and the answer is, well, it might go higher. I mean, we might have change orders, or something might come up that we didn't anticipate.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jones? Mr. Jones, did you have a comment?
I have the floor, and I'm not through.
I haven't said anything.
Well, I just wanted to,
You talk to him.
Go ahead, Mr. Gray.
thank you. I recognize that this is a policy question, and, you know, you're really not at that level. You're the construction guy, and you're answering my question as best you can. And it really is a combination of a board issue and an executive director issue and a finance director issue. It just comes to me at this point in time, well, why would we authorize spending $1 million more than the low bid? It seems to me like that on the previous one, where it was about a year earlier, we had estimated in the budget, I know you combined some bids, but it seems to me like, you can correct my memory, that we were $3 million, but the bids came in at $2 million. Do you recall what I'm speaking of?
I believe, yes, when we did the access road and closure of the saddle area.
So we were $1 million to the good versus the budget. And I recognize what a budget is and actual numbers, and sometimes actual numbers go your way and sometimes they don't. But do you recall at that time what our authorization was? Did we authorize to spend up to $3 million?
No, sir, I can't recall that.
Okay, well, I'd have to go back and check that. But having said that, it seems that we either 2 times in a row have consistently over budgeted or have benefited greatly from people bidding less than what we at one time thought the going rate for this construction would be. I mean, we're talking about $1 million on $3 million one time and $1 million on $7 million another time. I just want to make sure that I'm recapturing and remembering things correctly. Because it is a board policy, or should be a board policy, about, well, what do we do with $2 million if it turns out that we don't need them? And then that begs the question, and Jan, this might be a question for you, what do we do with that $2 million? Do we then later on in the year say, well, we saved $2 million against what we had budgeted? Or do we say, well, we over budgeted, or we benefited from
It goes back to
lower
the
cost?
construction.
It stays in that designated fund, you know, for the next project, so it would remain in that designated account.
We're talking about capital items versus operating, two
That's exactly
different, you know.
Yes, sir, and that's one of those designated funds that we have set up, that project was funded from, and any money that we've saved due to the budget coming in less than what we have budgeted, that money will remain in that designated account. So when the next project comes up, we might not be so fortunate. It could be that, you know, we have budgeted, you know, $7 million, it may come in at $11 million, you know, so therefore, you know, we have, that money remains in that account. It's not used for anything else, without board's approval.
But at least on those two accounts, we build up an excess of $2 million, if you will.
Yes, sir, we could have at this time, you're right, because like I said, our budget is just that, an estimate of what we anticipate the project costing us.
Does that happen often? Is there a way to figure out, well, how much excess over what we thought it would be is there that has been carried over?
To my knowledge, I'm not aware of any time that it's really happened quite often. You know, we don't normally have very many big projects like this, and because there is such a time span between them, you know, like I said, we try to use our best estimates, you know, getting with our engineers to give us a cost estimate of what they think that will be. I mean, I can surely go back and I can give you an estimate of what, you know, like the project we did last year and the project we're currently working on, just to give you an estimate of what the difference has been. Yes, sir, I can do that for you.
Well, I recognize you make a good point that we don't have $3 million projects every day, and we certainly don't have $7 million projects
No, sir.
every day. And that the opportunity to quote unquote pick up those kinds of monies don't come very often. There may not be in terms of significance of order or order of significance. There may be some. And at times there'll be other times when the budget, or when the actual came in
That's right.
over the budget, and it'll get eaten up that way.
I think we realize the economy has played into us being able to have that little bit of extra in there for these projects. Due to the economy, we were able to get good prices on these projects.
But right now, we're at $3 million to the good, and it'll just stay. I know we don't spend it or
No, sir,
go on a spree or anything like that, but
because
We
we've got
did-
another
we
big
did-
project coming up, you know, in another year. So,
we may be, when we sit down and go through the engineering crystal ball, may say, well, we need X amount of money reserved for such and such, but keep in mind, we got an extra $3 million carryover from previous years.
right. And for instance, when we get ready to construct the piggyback, we already know we do not have enough money in construction for that piggyback construction. We know that we're going to have to transfer funds from post-closure designated to the construction account to cover the cost of that construction that we have coming up. So therefore, we won't have to transfer as much money from the post-closure account to cover the cost of the piggyback construction.
How do we know what the piggyback is gonna cost?
We get with our engineers, like I said, they do an estimate on what that project's going to cost us based on so many different criteria, you know, what the cost estimates are. And so that's how we budget it, based on what information they've given us is what they anticipate it costing us. And we've just gone through recently with the audit, he's just gone through and kind of updated some of these figures as well, brought them up to current FY 2015 figures. So we're getting better estimates now, more up to date. But we know we don't have the money, we know we don't have the funds in construction for piggyback construction. That's a definite.
But again, that's using the same engineering firm and based on assumptions that they model, a business model they put together. We don't really have any actual numbers
No, sir, we
Yeah.
won't until we actually go out on bid for
We
the project.
anticipate that we will be short on piggyback and,
Well, we know, that's a for sure. Like I said, there will not be enough in construction for it. We know we're gonna have to, and we've known that all along, that we're gonna have to borrow from post-closure to cover the cost of the construction for the piggyback. And I say borrow, transfer. It's all really one lump sum of money, but we'll transfer money from one designated account to cover it in the other designated.
Mr. Chairman, we're getting outside the scope of what we originally started this discussion.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Hilling?
Mr. Chairman, the estimates are made by the engineers, by the consultants, and the professional people that we hire. I mean, we are not making these estimates ourselves, the staff's not making, the board's not making them, but the consultants who do this every day come up with the estimates, and they certainly they don't want to have an overrun, but they certainly would rather have an overrun than the project to come underneath their estimate. So, but it's done by professional people, and they do it every day.
And they
Mr. Long has pointed out that we've gone over what we're supposed to be talking about.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Mr. Hilling? Okay, thank you. Ms. Bidding?
Good evening.
Good evening.
The financial reports begin on page 35. That is the summary report that I put in there for all of the financial reports. Just a couple things I want to kind of call your attention to on page 35. As we were just now talking about our designated accounts, as you can see, our closure and post-closure designated currently has 18 million in that account, whereas you see our liability is 26 million. So just kind of keep you aware that, you know, our liability is more than our designated, which, like I said, we anticipate having that money there at the end of, I call the end of time, but at the end of the landfill time. Like I said, we will have the money in there to cover that liability. But that is an updated liability figure. Like I said, since we have finished our audit, that is a current up-to-date liability figure.
Would that be the new 37?
I think it's page 35, isn't it? Page 35.
35?
The summary report looks like this, Mr. Gray. That summary report should be page 35. You go back maybe 2 pages, I think, in your book. The other thing I'd just like to point out is on the bottom of the page was the new information that I've added on the C&D processing facility. Our revenue year-to-date is $19,472, and our expenses are $38,446. So our expenses are over our revenue over there. But yet, if you look, we have saved almost 8 days of airspace with that facility. Underneath that, of course, I've got the MRF, and that includes the MRF as well as collection and hauling expenses and revenue. That revenue is $492,785, and the expenses are $436,503. So as you can see, the MRF revenue is over the expenses. And they have also, I think it's kind of covered in your book, but they have saved 14.93 days of airspace, almost 15 days of airspace in 2 months' time. On page 37, which is our income statement, we should be at, since we're 2 months into the year, we should be at 16.66% of budget. As you can see, our revenue is currently at 17% of budget, and our expenses are at 14.5% of budget. So we're continuing to maintain our expenses below our revenue, which is good. Staff's continuing to watch their expenses very closely. As you can see, for the month, we're at $26,314, where our revenue's over expenses, and for the year, $527,398. We're going to continue to watch that very closely. As I've mentioned before, we've got an extremely tight budget. We've run into a lot of little expenses we hadn't anticipated already this year, so we are continuing to watch that and monitor it very closely. On page 38, where it shows our revenue, you can kind of see where our tipping fees, our solid waste is at 23% of budget, our yard waste is at 16.25%, and our mixed construction is at 17.5% of budget. So our main tipping fees are staying within, within budget. Like I said, solid waste is a little bit over budget, which is good.
Do we have any idea about that trend, why, or?
Yeah, I'm currently working on an analysis. I apologize for not having it done today. I just told Mike, I said I meant to have that ready for you, so I will have that completed for you. So
Curious.
that like I said, I'm going through that for you. I do apologize.
Thank you.
And the recyclables on that page are at 16.43% of budget. So, like I said, we are staying right on track with our revenue. Page 40, just want to call your attention there also to, this is our thermometers, we like to call it. Just kind of gives you a breakdown of like our closure and our post-closure, you know, where those liabilities are, where our designated is, and where our shortfall is. Like I said, we've got closure, post-closure. As you can see, there's our piggyback on there, and you can see our piggyback expansion project, we anticipate it being, you know, $30 million. And like I said, we're short currently 22 million. So we know, like I said, at this point that we're going to have to transfer funds from one of these other designated accounts to cover the cost for that construction project.
Let me add something to the thermometer. A couple of weeks ago, there was an article in the paper about closure and what we had going on. I've got, it's listed. Got some extra ones. And there was some concern about, they mentioned parks in the article, and we got back to the horse trails and what we were really supposed to be doing. But this thermometer is what we preach on and talk about all the time. The left side talks about closure, post-closure, and future construction. There's nothing in this for parks, and horse trails, and those type things. Now, the article stated certain things, but this what we go by. This is what we preach from. And 119 million was in the article. And that's our estimated total liabilities to the end of time. We're spending $7 million in the backyard today. So as these projects come up, we spend the money. As a truck crosses the scales today, they paying their fair share of all these costs. But trust me, there's no money in these for recreation. We might get a gun range, but we will not have any money in it. If somebody wants to build a recreation field, it will be at their expenses, just like Highway 57 and what the county has done there. We didn't put any money in that project. We didn't put any money in that fire station that's in Green Sea on the property up there, so.
These estimates are updated on an annual basis or
Yes, sir.
biannual?
Annually.
Annual basis.
That's,
Okay.
may I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
I understand, Mr. Knight, that neither you nor any of us can control what some reporter in the Sun News puts in the paper. But he allegedly was quoting you, and he clearly referred to those things that I know that you believe not to be in these color charts here. And I think that we're duty bound to use our very best efforts to make sure the public's not misinformed, even by in this case, it was a Sun News article. In fact, the article speaks for itself. It's in the back of this book. Thank
No
you for
question.
making
Thanks
it
for
correct.
clearing that up. Anything else, Ms. Bidding?
Just on page 41, I'd like to point out to you the mixed construction line item. As you can see, we are 28% below where we were last year at the same time, which we anticipated when we did our budget this year. So we are still maintaining that same track. So, and then the only other page I have, of course, is page 46, which is the new report that I've added. Just wanted to call attention to that as well. Last month, we were right on track with where we had budgeted. This month, we are below. Our tonnage is a little bit below where we anticipated being, but it's kind of hard to tell because we do change it month by month, and it could be the weather is different this month. Different factors play into this. Like I said, we will continue to watch this and monitor this. This helps us kind of stay on track. Yes, sir. Stay on track to, where we anticipated being. So we will continue to watch this, and I'll give you any updates if we see any significant changes in what might be bringing that about. Just one other thing I wanted to mention to you is that we have been talking with DHEC about modifying our waste tire grant. What we're anticipating doing is modifying that grant to include funds, to increase our funds to cover the tipping fee costs for the municipalities in the county for any tires that are brought in from those locations for residents. DHEC has assured us that that's not a problem. We can go ahead and modify that grant. So we are going to waive the tipping fee beginning October 1st for any tires that the municipalities in the county bring in from the residents. The only other thing I have is the Finance Committee meeting. I've talked with our auditor, and he would like to try to schedule a meeting in October, which we had anticipated, schedule one anyway. We'd like to meet once a quarter. So if you can kind of check your schedules, I know Reverend Coakley's not here. I can get in touch with him, but if you have any time between October, maybe the week of October 13th through the 17th, you can take a look if you've got anything that week that any morning, afternoon, whatever's the most convenient for you. Is there a particular day that works better?
Ms. Creech, how does the 15th look for you?
Don't have my calendar.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll send an email out
If you
tomorrow,
would.
and that way everybody can kind of check their calendar.
Ask for sometime on the 15th.
Okay.
If Reverend Coakley and Ms. Creech both, as our committee members, are available that day. If not,
Morning.
we can pick another day, but that day, Wednesday.
Okay. Morning, afternoon, does that make any difference?
If it's afternoon, early afternoon.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Benning. Special Projects, Governmental Affairs, Mr. Besant.
Of course, the recycling incentive programs we have, we've give out about $64,900 in the first 2 months of the year to our MSW recycling incentive, which is the biggest portion of that at over $55,000. And our factory for customers that's using our factory is about $9,800, and that's pretty consistent with what it was last year. So we're pretty much on with that part. Any questions on that? The Green Tie event, I'm going to let y'all know.
One question.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You and I were discussing privately at the Green Tie event that you felt, I hope I'm not misquoting you, that the total of these rebates would be about $300,000, about $1 a ton for all the trash that we have going through our system. Did I misremember that? Or about right?
The 300,000 was, it cost approximately $1 a ton last year, in last year's budget.
Uh-huh.
And to fund these programs.
You got any idea of this year?
Well, it's been pretty consistent with what we did last year, so I'm gonna assume it's gonna be somewhere around, but, I'm just assuming we haven't got if the MSW picks up, the amount of tonnage come in, it could be more. If it continues to increase, or, if it could go up, I know it's gonna be a little less than last year because we're not paying for the C&D recycling facilities off-site. And that was about, what was it, around $10,000, $8,000 or $10,000 last year.
I think it's significant, at least for me anyway, to remember that of our gross revenues, the county takes 2.25 a ton. And in recent years, that's run about $750,000 that goes over, as Danny says, downtown. And this $300,000 here goes to the various
Incentive.
customers. It's about $1 million on roughly $12 million worth of revenue. That'd be about 80%.
That's correct.
Rather significant. Thank you.
Mr. Bessie?
The Green Tie event, we went, attended a Green Tie event on the 17th. The Green Tie event gave out about 4 awards. They gave the Senate Leadership Award to Senator Greg Gregory from York and Lancaster counties. The House of Leadership Award was received by, make sure I say this right, Gilda Cobb Hunter, because she corrected them there when they didn't say Cobb Hunter. And the Lifetime Conservation Achievement Award was Ann Springs Close, and she is a relative of the Leroy Springs and Company at Spring May Beach Pier in Myrtle Beach. And the Harriet Kiesinger Conservation Actor, which was Bob Gilden, and he is an environmental attorney out of Columbia. It's been fighting since 1980s on environmental issues throughout the state of South Carolina and North Carolina. We did have Councilman Carl Swarkoff attend. Anita Morin from the League of Women's Voters attended. We had 3 board members, Ms. Creech, Mr. Campbell, and Mr. Gray attend. And of course, myself, Ms. Murphy, and Ms. Bidding went. We had a pretty good time. We went up and came back, and everybody arrived alive. So we done well.
Very good. Mr. Gray?
Thank you. I had the pleasure of, my seatmate was Henry McMaster. As you know, he has run for governor before and was attorney general once, and state attorney general once. But he is, or he is running, he's the only Republican candidate for lieutenant governor. So for all intents and purposes, he will be our next lieutenant governor, and frequently lieutenant governors move on up to governor. I found it very interesting to be able to redevelop a relationship I had with him. I enjoyed being there very much.
Thank you for going.
Anything else, Mr. Bessie?
That's all.
Any questions? Thank you, sir. Mr. Knight, Executive Director.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
First point I would like to make is kind of an update on the National SWA Convention, WasteCon, that was in Dallas, Fort Worth, Grapevine area of Texas. And if you've never been to Texas in the end of August, you should try it. Reverend Coakley and I attended. We probably attended 20, 25 workshops. And really, just about everybody's in the same predicament that we're in. They're trying to figure out how to recycle more, what to do with it. Everybody's watching this group, Dallas, Fort Worth, and there was another one in that group, in a real close proximity. Fort Worth was watching Dallas to see what they were going to do. Fort Worth's got an RFP going out for a MRF. Some of them's watching Montgomery, Alabama to see if they're going to be able to make their process work. But probably the best program that we heard about and watched was San Jose, and we've heard San Jose mentioned before. They've had a mayor that really jumped in, was going to do a lot of recycling and green, and they considered, they said that the mayor was the political champion of this project. They got a wet and dry MRF. They don't send anything to the landfill initially. Everything goes through the processing. When they bid this whole project out, they had 24 haulers in San Jose, and they ended up with just one garbage company, and they're doing the MRF, and they're doing all these good things, and their diversion rate today was 72%. I must say our diversion rate is 70% based on DHEC figures. So when you look at tipping fees across the United States, landfill space, our diversion rate, we really are doing a good job, and proud to when you hear those things. Talked a lot about safety. There was over 50 employees in the waste industry killed last year, almost one a week, and it's the fourth most dangerous occupation in the United States. A lot of people's pushing energy to waste. Lancaster County was there, and their diversion rate is about 98%, and 2% goes into the landfill as ash. Job satisfaction, and a lot of these things we're already doing, keeping talent, keeping your retention rate on your talented people, and we all know that our people are our most important asset. I did pick up one thing: the more you yell, the less people listen. So started being careful on that. And one point that a guy made is John Kennedy was visiting NASA back in the 60s. They were putting a trip together to the moon, which happened in '69. And he asked a guy, the janitor, "What's your job here?" He says, "My job, I'm helping put a man on the moon." And that really, that says a lot. But green, everybody's talking about getting greener pilot programs, but it's going to be interesting to see what Fort Worth comes up with on their MRF and what type of MRF it is. San Diego is still working off of a 1919 law that established tipping fees, assessing fees for garbage. I think we're working off some of those ourselves. Flow control, biggest battle today in flow control is battling over the recyclables, and we're not involved in that because we eliminated the recyclables out of the flow control. So I think it was a very good, worthwhile trip. Enjoyed it. I wish Reverend Coakley was here where he could speak to it also. Look forward to one next year. Next year is going to be in Florida in August, so here we go. Next thing we added was the issue about the Sunoco agreement that we had. They have, Sunoco has requested to bow out of the agreement that we have. They say it's no longer financially beneficial to them, and we can't assist them in it being more financial to them because we're fighting the financial battle too. So as part of the agreement, there's a termination for convenient clause in the agreement. So it's going to be my recommendation to go ahead and work out something with them to get us through probably 1st of October, something like that. But we're terminating on good ground. Prices are down. China's still dealing with the markets, and we'll have to contend with that. And we'll have to work smarter and, attempt to get more products to our MRF. So that's, we'll go ahead and get with Emma Ruth and make sure we do this on the, best way to do it.
Then is there anything in writing on that?
Yes, sir.
Could I have a copy of whatever you have, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Knight? Okay. Committee reports. I will tell you that the Finance Administration Committee did meet on September the 9th. You'll see a copy of the minutes on page 57. Our agenda included discussion of FY15 budget, just to make sure that we were watching closely on the C&D. We also looked at personnel costs, and personnel status, and agreed to get a quarterly update from Ms. Bidding in that regard. So it was a good meeting, good update, a lot of information, no action was taken. So that was the Finance Administration Committee. Any questions about that? Waste Diversion Committee, September 9th.
We had,
I'm sorry, we had a committee meeting and talked about the trip that the Waste Diversions Committee took to Durham. The only recommendation that we had was we would continue to monitor the situation. The company we went to see is producing jet fuel. A lot of pipes and fittings, and it's very impressive, and somebody spent some money, but that's not the company we would be dealing with. Someone else is taking our product and turning it into a fuel that they are using there. So we would deal with somebody in the middle. It was an educational trip. We know more now than we did then. And along with the other black boxes that come along, I think we will continue to monitor them all. No action was taken.
Thank you, sir. And the Recycling and Corporate Affairs Committee, I think Mr. Long was absent, and Ms. Creech presided in his absence. Ms. Creech?
Yes, we had that meeting on September the 16th. What we were discussing was the new Baylor purchase recommendation. The staff had been looking at the new Baylor purchase that they had talked with us about. They did a lot of research, reviewed all the bids, the prices, service capabilities, delivery installment plans. They also visited several of the facilities for a view of how the equipment worked and how it operated. Mr. Gray and I both asked a lot of questions, discussed a lot of issues with them and with the staff. And what our recommendation with Mr. Gray moving that, and I seconded and we voted on that, was to take staff's recommendation to accept the bid they had. The other thing, there was an overage of $239, and it was decided the best thing was to do is what staff recommended, was to allocate that from the MRF operation budget.
Is that in the form of a motion to accept staff's recommendation?
That's in form of a motion.
We have a
to
motion
accept
on the floor to accept
recommendation.
staff's recommendation on the new Baylor. Have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
The other two things we discussed was electronic waste disposal. That was a verbal update. The company that's doing our e-waste is no longer doing that. The staff has researched and got another company that is doing it now. And then they are trying to get together an RFP for an e-waste transportation and recycling service to be advertised in October. That's just for everyone's information. And the other was that the staff has rejected the area enclosure. We have a lot of paper blowing, and we had gotten a bid. It was over what had been discussed that we would pay. So they're also looking at that and looking at several bids on that, and I'm sure they'll keep us informed.
Thank you, Mr. Creech. Any questions about Recycling and Corporate Affairs Committee? Okay. Under old business, just an update on the special meeting, the bylaws. The INR committee is meeting Monday, the 29th,
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock in the morning. Monday afternoon, we have our public hearing here at 4 PM on Monday, the 29th. Our board meeting Tuesday morning, the 30th, 9 AM, to consider the INR committee's discussion, and then it will go to council on October the 7th. Anything else, Mr. Knight, on that schedule?
No.
Okay. And then we added to the agenda the bylaws discussion, Ms. Britton.
Yes, we have one additional section, that's really sort of a boilerplate, and okay, Mike has copies, so I have some. Basically, it's similar to a provision that's in there, relating to, conflicts and amendments. And what this does is, tie in the bylaws with the, county ordinances, and it's, would be the law anyway, but it says that if there's any portion of the bylaws that conflict with a provision of an ordinance enacted by the county, that the conflicting provision will be deemed repealed and not in effect. So that there would, your first rule of construction of, a county document and the bylaws would be to read them harmoniously, if at all possible. If the sections cannot be read harmoniously, then the county provision would control. And this was discussed with the county attorney, who agreed, or who actually, felt like this would be a very good thing to put in terms of, presenting it further down the road.
So this was an addition to,
This
not
is-
a modification of an existing,
That's right.
okay.
This is
an
an
addition
additional
to-
provision.
Okay, additional provision, okay.
And we already have an article set up for amendments and conflicts that dealt with more of SWA type conflicts. And there's a conflict provision in there for those. This would add one to resolve any county conflict.
Great. Any questions?
Yeah,
Mr. Gray?
so in the latest red line bylaws, proposed bylaws revisions, you take this page here, Article 3, and add it to what we've done before.
Yes, sir. If y'all vote to accept that tonight, it would be added to that document for presentation to the INR committee.
And all it does is say if there's a conflict, try to work it out, but if you can't, then county councils,
Say on it would
Prevails.
control. Yes, sir.
their what prevails, their interpretation?
Their actual, if there's deemed to be a conflict with an ordinance they've enacted,
Oh, okay.
then their ordinance would control. Right now, based on our review, we do not see a conflict with the ordinance, but sometimes you don't always envision all interpretations that a document may get, as I think John can vouch for me on that. So, in the event a conflict should arise, this sets forth the,
Well, I think there are lots of conflicts, but this fixes it. It says that that county council's ordinance would supersede anything that we do in the way
in terms of
what
the
we call
conflict. Yes, sir.
bylaws or rules or whatever.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Who brought this up? What brought this up?
Sir?
How did this come up?
About a month ago, right after we had third reading, I reviewed the document with the county attorney. Wanted to make sure if there were any questions from his perspective or the county's perspective that he thought he should bring to light, we would discuss them. And during the course of that discussion, he mentioned, how about just a amendment conflict clause, because like I said, he said you don't always anticipate what might come up, and that could possibly, be helpful if there were any issues in the future. And
I think it's a good thing on both your and his part.
and I agreed with him. I felt it was a good thing too, and it is something you often see in these kinds of documents.
And that's a RICO.
Yes, sir. Arrigo
Now,
Karate.
How do you say his name?
Arrigo Karate. Arrigo Karate. Right.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the amendment to the bylaws.
I make that motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll pass that and send that on to INR.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Britton. New business, application for type 2 compost permit. Mr. Knight?
Thanks, sir. Bill,
And
go
Mr.
ahead.
Hilling?
Yeah, currently, we're permitted as a Class 1 facility. With the consideration that we have for food waste composting, we will need to be permitted as a Type 2 facility with the change in regulation. And in order to do that, we've got to have a signed document by a South Carolina licensed engineer as we apply for a Type 2 permit. We've got a scope of services. We've looked into it so we can move forward. Staff's recommendation is the Board of Directors approve funding of $14,500. It is almost $22,000 in there. We've negotiated that down to $14,500 to contract with Garrett & Moore for services to apply for a Type 2 compost facility permit. We're requesting funding for this project come from the contingency fund account.
Any questions about the composting permit?
So moved.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll approve that. 14.5 is the contract price, the
Yes, sir.
set price. Thank you.
Secondly, we have sale of surplus equipment. In our approved capital budget for FY15, we had a new trommel screen in there, and we bid that out. I think we had 9 quotes on it. Got our new trommel screen in, so there's a need to surplus our old one. It's a 1999 Wildcat. What we'd like to do is sell it as is. Staff's recommended Board of Directors approve the surplus sale of on Gov Deals for unit number 384, the old Wildcat trommel screen.
Have any idea of the value of that piece of equipment?
The company that we bought the new one from, they said they thought we could get $20,000 for it. And so we have to get approval for anything over 10
Sure.
from the board.
And that has proved much more successful than any kind of trade-ins on equipment in the past, the way that we've been able to operate.
That'll be our bottom line. When we set our reserve on
Right.
Gov Deals, it'll be 20.
20?
And oftentimes, we're getting a lot more above that.
That's terrific. We've got a recommendation from staff on selling this piece of equipment on Gov Deals.
Motion.
We have a motion to accept staff's recommendation and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you have permission.
Thank you very
Sell
much.
away.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Gray?
I'd like to double back this letter that Mr. Bessent just handed me. All this is I presume, the change and a complete document that
I think that's the
incorporates-
latest version that's going to INR for Monday morning.
That was the packet that was sent to INR from the put in the board packet. Now that y'all made an amendment, we're gonna try to insert that amendment into the packet.
Okay.
We wanted y'all to have what we had sent to them.
Okay, there's no other changes, just, as a matter of fact, there's no changes.
There's no changes, but we will insert those other ones and get it back to them in the morning.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, sir. Roundtable discussion, any items for discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
This is a good place as any to start. Thanks, sir. name I already know, but will eventually become public anyway, requested of a member of our delegation that an attorney general opinion be drawn.
Speak into your mic, please.
Sorry. Thank you. That an attorney general opinion be drawn, and you don't have to be an Einstein to figure out that there was only one person that fit the bill, and that was me. And so an attorney general opinion was drawn, which says that in effect, I am disqualified from serving on this board. You can see that there is, and by the way, an attorney general opinion is simply that. I'm sure some at this table have already read the attorney general opinion closely and know that Ms. Crosswell, who wrote it, actually, she's only been working there a few months, but that's neither here nor there. She wrote the opinion. And she said all it is an opinion. It can't be used for enforcement. She argued about as much on one side as she did the other. In fact, someone said she jumped the fence so many times they weren't sure which side she was on. But she ultimately came down on the side that I am disqualified from serving on this board because of being in conflict with the Dual Office Holding Act. Those are not legal terms, but that's what it means. The Attorney General's opinion is just that. She cried out for court clarification. She said that it was not clear. Just a little tidbit of information. Since 1959, there have been 12,002 Attorney General opinions written on the subject of dual office holding. There is no clear, settled law. Each case is unique and different and subject to personalities and politics and all sorts of things. I, of course, in defense of myself, asked a qualified attorney, you all know or know of, Tommy Britton. He wrote a contravening opinion, and that's where that is. In my view, this was a bogus attempt to get me kicked off of this board by some people who don't want me on the board. And they began to move in July as soon as the new officers were put in place. In that regard, someone sitting at this table ordered or requested our attorney to look into this matter. And I would like for our attorney to give her report about what she found, and this matter being the Attorney General opinion letter.
I'm speaking of my conversation with the South Carolina Ethics Commission, and I did make an inquiry, just informal conversation, in order to ascertain whether the opinion created any obligation, ethical obligations on behalf of the board or Mr. Gray, and was informed that this issue was not within the jurisdiction of the State Ethics Commission. And that was, you know, the extent. It was probably a less than 5-minute conversation.
Thank you. Who ordered you or asked you to do that?
I was not ordered to do that, Mr. Gray. I think when staff learned of the opinion, they sent it to me so that we could have a legal briefing if necessary, so everyone would understand any.
So you're not gonna name a name, you're just gonna say staff.
Well, as I recall, and I don't specifically recall who I was involved, but it was forwarded to Mr. Knight, and he and I spoke, and I I'm not sure, I believe Mr. Besant might have been on the phone also, but it was no one, I believe, other than the two of
That was
you.
my understanding as well. Thank you. I won't, we're friends. I'm not here to try to embarrass you.
But there
I
was,
know you're just doing
Mr. Gray, there was nothing malicious. It was just a very straightforward conversation. We
Not
received
on your
this.
part. There was maliciousness on
Well,
the part of others.
It was
but,
simply, this was received, what do we do about it?
Thank
If anything.
And nothing has been.
And
or
nothing
it's-
has
right.
been done. And when I had the conversation, looked at the opinion, looked at the way the issues were discussed in the opinion, I reported back. And you left a message for me, Mr. Gray, and I did leave one responding to you about what I had done. And there was nothing to hide
Great.
in that regard.
Great.
And my question to Emma Ruth was, is it an ethics
Sure.
position?
We have an obligation to make
Know
sure that we're,
Ask her
Right.
that question. I don't know. She found out. That's it.
Right.
That was it.
good. Thank you for providing.
That's on the record. This board has no authority at all whatsoever to deal with ethics issues or the issue of dual office holding. It has to be determined in a court of law. The sole purpose was to try to persuade those that do have jurisdiction over us, county council. And let me say, Mr. Jones, Mr. Campbell, in order for your position or the position in that letter to obtain and hold, you have to establish that you are an independent authority that is subject to the laws of the state of South Carolina, more or less like Grand Strand Water and Sewer Authority, and that county council has no authority over you at all whatsoever. And I can tell you, you're opening a Pandora's box by trying to kick me off of here by using the Attorney General's office and a member of the delegation in the way that you have.
Well, I don't think anything's been done, so I think Ms. Britton checked and no action's been taken. So thanks for providing this, but I think it's a non-issue. Mr. Jones?
Yes. Since my name was called, I have asked for no opinion. I have asked Mr. Britton for no opinion. I've asked the Attorney General's office for no opinion. And if you're gonna call my name, be sure about what you're talking about, because I haven't said anything about you and I haven't asked anything about you. That's speaking to you, not to him. Thank you. I want that in the record.
Anything else for the roundtable?
Let me say that I expected you to say what you said. And I don't blame you for saying what you said. But there are ways to get things done without going into it directly. I'm just saying that you just look at who benefits and what, in this case, what was the purpose being served. There's no question you want me off of here. And so I have served on a number of boards. I've watched a number of boards. I cannot imagine, Mike, you treating a colleague the way you've treated me. You could have at least said, we're going to move in this direction. You didn't do it. I found out the grapevine way, the dirty way. You put a knife in my back.
Let me make one statement on this whole thing, and maybe we can move off the agony. The last time this was discussed, you were asked in this room, on the record, about being on that other board, and you said you were not on that board. So I don't know how.
That is none of your business. That is in the past. You have no jurisdiction over this. If you want to bring up something from the past, that's your business. It has nothing to do with now. You are in an indefensible position. Your hands are as dirty as theirs in trying to get me off this board. It ain't gonna work.
All right.
That's it.
Yeah.
No, they're not,
We'll-
he's not gonna sit here and make any more
We'll-
accusations about me.
Okay, let's call it to
That's
order
it.
and, yep. Any other items for the roundtable? Any need for executive session? Anybody? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. All right, thank you, everybody.